So I probably started my woodcraft journey back when I was a child. My dad, who was a baby of the Depression, if you will, did everything. Dad never hired anybody to do anything until he got later in his life. Dad literally built his house, or the house that I grew up in. He built it from scratch. I mean, the man built the foundation out of cement blocks. So Dad did everything, and I learned working with Dad as Dad remodeled the house as years went on, or finished the house, that there were things that boys and men just learned how to do. And woodworking was one of them. Dad literally built the cabinets. He did the moldings. He did everything, and he made sure that I was there working with him. So I mean, I sort of got introduced into using my hands and my brain and my mind very young. But when I got out of college, that's really when I started to step into this woodcraft as something more serious. I bought my first wood lathe. It's an old Craftsman. I still use it. It's still there. Still on the bench. But I started doing art projects with the lathe, building lamps and that kind of thing. I built my sister a hope chest, and that was all, very early. Very early. We're talking in the mid 70s, and from there it just sort of grew. It expanded. I had the opportunity, or I took the opportunity, to study with several wood masters. Terry Moore is a master furniture maker here in New Hampshire. I studied with Terry, learning how to do veneering. I studied with Al Carruth. Al's again another master guitar maker, master luthier, learning how to build acoustic guitars. But still, whether you're building acoustic guitars or you're doing electric guitars, much of the process, much of the thinking is the same. So when you combine Al's understanding of wood as it relates to an instrument, and then I combine that with Terry teaching me the craft of veneering, you begin to understand how these components, these individual components, really begin to work together. I guess my point is over the years that this whole woodcraft thing is something that I kind of went after very purposely to learn, to get better at, to understand. And truly, today, there's so much more to learn. There's so much more opportunity to become better at this. One of the things that I spent a lot of time doing when I worked for Ruger in the wood shop, I spent a lot of time just studying the machines, learning how to optimize the machines, how to get the most out of those, what the machines were capable of giving the not only the company but the operators, because not set up well, some of these machines can be damn dangerous. So I've spent a lifetime in the woodcraft in one way or another. Studied under two other masters, my dad and my uncle, master gunsmiths. These guys also did their own custom work, and I worked along with them many times, helping create some of the custom work that they did. So anyway, again, I guess the point is it's a lifetime of study. It's a lifetime of engagement in the woodcraft. And one of the things, we're working on these electric guitars right now. I know some of you guys are here for the guns. We're going to do plenty of guns. But remember, whether we're doing the guns, the gun stocks, or the guitars, it's still the craft. It's still the craftsmanship. It's still the philosophy and the mental commitment to doing the very best that you can. But we're doing the guitars right now. Now you know that we're doing these veneered tops over the top of the main body blank. Now at the moment we're using this hand plane, and what I'm trying to do is to plane the mating or matching surface of the bottom of the veneer, because I need to have absolutely as flat a plane as I can get, so that when I glue this to this surface, that the precision of the fit of the match between the two surfaces are so precise, or as precise as reasonable, so that when I put the glue, that we get a nice even layer of glue. Now I learned this from Terry Moore when I took the veneering class with Terry. That if we don't get a nice, really good match surface, then there is the risk that the surface may delaminate, and we don't want that. We want as much glue contact as we can get, and we want as much of that glue getting down those 2 or 3 cell layers in order to bond those two pieces together. So today, my goal, my objective, is to simply get these surfaces as flat as we can. Now I've got a couple tear outs in here that I'm not going to try to chase out, but what I am doing is I have my Mylar blueprint, and I am able to overlay that Mylar blueprint and make sure that wherever those tear outs are, that I'm going to cut them out somewhere in the process, or they're far enough into the blank itself that it's not going to be affected once we do the binding or the trim work around the edge. Once I've got these as level as I can get them, I'll then take the scraper and I'll scrape all the whatever tool marks are left from the joint planer, and then we'll end up with that nice smooth surface. So let's just take a few minutes as I hand plane these things. There's something very cathartic about this. There's something very, if you've never hand planed, if you've never had this tool in your hand and you're just cutting and stroking this wood, there's something cathartic. There's a connection. There's a root connection between you, the hand tool, and the wood, that it's not only visceral, but it's an emotional connection between you and the wood. And that connection is somehow bigger and larger than if you took that same piece of wood and ran it through a machine. You can get the work done much quicker using a machine, I don't disagree with that, but you really miss that emotional connection between you and the wood and the tool. And by the way, we're calling this a custom handmade guitar. Then I think that as much as possible it should be handmade. So come along as I hand plane this veneer top. When you're hand planing a surface as broad as this, and you're using a hand plane that's only 2 inches wide, you need to change directions or orientations frequently as you're hand planing. And one of the things that my friend and mentor, teacher, Al Caruth taught me, and I didn't realize this, I've been using hand planes for years and years and years, it's sort of obvious that you want to alter your directions so that you're using the base of the plane in order to maintain that flatness or that level. But if you were to simply go a single direction every time, then you're going to end up with bellies and all kinds of other imperfections in the plane. So we change directions often. And we're always looking to make sure we're not adding more chips or chip outs to the wood. Now I've said again frequently that wood only likes to be cut in one particular direction. So we have to watch for that very carefully. If there's any interest in me doing a video or talking about the process of hand planing, just leave a comment, and I certainly would consider doing something more that's more specific about hand plating, including choosing the plane and sharpening the blades. I mean, we can do all that. I've actually purchased several old Stanleys and old Miller Falls hand planes, and I've restored them so that I can use them. I mean, it's just, again, you know, this whole channel is a little bit about putting woodworking or putting craft into historical context. So I love buying some of these older iron hand planes and restoring them and using them. So if there's any interest, just leave a comment and I could maybe figure out how to do a video on hand planing. You know, I think one of the things that troubles me so much is that these crafts, this idea of being a woodworker or any kind of physical, technical skills, you know, they seem to be all not disappearing, but the people who are interested in doing them oftentimes seems to be becoming smaller and smaller. You know, everybody goes to college, which I'm not opposed to college even a little bit, but everybody goes to college. They encumber $80,000, $100,000, $200,000 worth of debt, and at the end of the day, they got to pay all that back. But those craft skills, those abilities to make things that you've designed or invented or thought about, and use your hands and your brain and your skills that you've accumulated over time, and to create something that's wonderful or beautiful or useful. That training, that skill seems to be becoming somewhat endangered. Right now, I've learned that more people are now starting to go into technical schools or technical training as opposed to going into college, which I think is actually wonderful, because I think that it may force some of these colleges to rethink their pricing on schools. Anyway, yeah. All right, I think we've got this. Again, the idea, I'm surfacing this for glue up, not for finish. Now, despite the fact that we're hand planing it, we're planing it with this tool, this plane, but the cutter is only so wide. So we're going to get some tool marks, some cutter marks. So we're going to use a scraper. And the idea is to level out all of those cutter marks from the plane. So this is my mule. This is my Telecaster, and it's built out of hemlock and it's overlaid or veneered over with hardboard. And I built this very specifically so that when I was designing my fixtures for doing this, and you'll see those fixtures once we get further into the build. So these fixtures that I use for shaping the outside of the body, for doing all these inletting cuts, when I designed that, I needed a test body. I needed to test the setups in order to make sure that everything that all the fixturing that I was designing and building were actually going to function. And we had to make some modifications because of the mule. So the mule is not perfect, but what the mule does do is it gives me the ability. So for instance, I have the Mylar print, which I can overlay. But the trouble with the Mylar print is I can't outline things with pencil. The mule allows me to do that. So before I finish this, I need to make sure that everything is going to actually line out or be where it needs to be. Now, I mentioned that I had a few tear outs in this, and that those tear outs are in the mating surface. Those tear outs are not in the show side. So the show side is good. But I do need to glue this up. So I need to understand where those tear outs are so that when I go to do the final cuts, the final inletting, I'm not going to have to worry about those tear outs showing up in the surface. And I also want to make sure that those tear outs don't affect the glue joint, which by looking at it very specifically through the Mylar, I can see where those tear outs are as compared to the actual dimensions of the guitar. Again, I have that center line, so I put this on center line, and I can see where all the tear outs are. Now, clearly, those tear outs, the bulk of them are going to be in areas that I'm going to cut out when I do the inletting. However, I'd like to make sure that the drawing isn't the only thing I'm relying on. So I'm going to just do a quick overlay like that. And then come around. Draw out the shape of the guitar on the surface, and then I can see clearly where the tear outs are, and I know exactly where I remove the material that there's going to be no instances where those tear outs show, because you got to remember that this is a laminate, but I'm actually going to go well below the laminate down to the mating surface for the neck. Probably more information than you needed, but it's important for me because I have to make sure that when I go and glue this up, that I get the best glue surface that I can. All right, so the maple is ready to go. The maple is going to go onto the mahogany, and I've already got that marked, so the maple is going to get glued to the top of this. And we already glued this up, so we have a nice blank of wood that actually were two halves. You can see that in one of the earlier videos. So it says top, so quite literally this is going to get glued like this. So I need to make sure equally that this surface is as flat as it can be, so that again I get that really good glue surface. And I have run this through the planer, and there are teeth marks, which again are typical. And I want to get some of those teeth marks from the planer removed. Same thing, just very, very gentle. Making sure my direction of cut isn't going to tear out the wood. I don't have to go very deep with this one, because all I'm trying to do is remove those cutter marks or tool marks from the planer. If you watched the last video of me doing the glue joints with the shooting board, I mentioned there that I wanted to make sure I was taking small shavings off, and you can see I'm doing the same thing here. I've got the blade set, so I'm removing very, very small amounts of material. The deeper the cuts, the higher the risk for tear outs. You want the tool to do the work. Same thing Again, I didn't have to go too deep with this because it had already been planed. Using the hand scraper just to take out any tool marks from the planer, hand planer. This hand plane or scraper was designed by my friend Al Carruth. I'd mentioned him earlier. He's the guy that was teaching me how to build acoustic guitars, and Al designed this scraper. Alright, so we've got both mating surfaces hand planed, hand scraped, and nice and smooth. So this is ready for glue up. Alright, so these two are done. These two are ready. I have to do the same thing to the mill guitar. The flooring on this, we need to make sure that we've got this entire mating surface or glue surface as flat as we can as well. So we'll do this. That oil or lanolin making this slippery. Get yourself a hand plane, boys and girls. There's just something emotional and visceral about connecting to the wood through the tool. Any of you out there that are artists or machinists, leave a comment. Tell me your experience, your feelings when you work with wood or work with metal, or if you're an artist, a painter. Just leave a comment. Tell me about your experience when you're connecting through the materials to create your art or create your thing. All right, same thing. Gonna go back and scrape this. Probably one of the most valuable tools you got is your hand, because your hands can feel imperfections and surfaces. So as you come across, you can feel that there are imperfections that you need to take out. Same thing here, cutting on various angles, or scraping on various angles. Always trying to bridge those tool marks. And we'll go down the length of the grain. Alright, that is nice. So we're doing the same thing. We're going to take the Mylar blueprint and overlay it. Trying to find that center point, making sure that we have no imperfections that I need to worry about. Before I make my choice though, I need to choose probably the direction that this is going to go. You know, which is the look that I am most interested in. And one of the things is that we want to remove the right amount of material in the right places so that the book match has a mirror image. So this is the way this has to go. So this is going to go this way. So I can take my mule. I know my mule has to go here like this. Again, I'm not trying to finalize anything here, just wanting to make sure that I have a feel for what this is going to look like. We have some similar colors on either side of this. So you've got a nice white side over here and another nice white side over here. Same up top, there's some white up here and there's some white over here. So that's the way that's going to get mounted. And as I mentioned earlier, that we're going to do this warts and all, so there are nail holes in here from where it was nailed to the floor. Alright, so that one is ready to go. Now the last thing I need to do is to take this, and this is going to be the top, or glue. And this one, I think all I'm going to do is scrape this one because I don't see a lot of tool marks on this. Alright, so that's done. We are now ready to glue the laminate or the veneer to the top of the body blanks. That will be our next guitar video. I have to move some things around. I have to get access to the vacuum press. We'll do that. I hope you got something out of this. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Really appreciate all the feedback that you guys give me. Subscribe if you're not already. It tells the YouTube algorithms that this is a channel worth watching. Appreciate you guys being here, and I will see you in the next video.